Hi, I am going to present a new topic in Calculus 1. So this is our topic 7 regarding limits at infinity or the end behavior of functions. Okay, so at first glance, you might be thinking if this is the same as infinite limits. Okay, so unahan ko na kayo, hindi po sila pareho. Okay, so maybe they are the same in the sense that both concepts contain the positive or negative infinity sign. Okay, pero doon sa evaluation ng limit, they are actually not the same. Siguro may habig lang, pero konti lang. Okay? Kasi ganito yon. Okay? Di-differentiate ko muna yung infinite limits at infinity. Baka merong magtanong sa inyo. Okay? Doon sa infinite limits, kung natatandaan nyo yung limit notation natin, that is, we are finding for the limit of a function as x approaches any real number a. Okay? And that the limit here is, it's either that the function increases or decreases without bound. Okay, so yung mismong function or yung mismong value ng function ang nagfe-fail to exist. Or kapag sinabi kasi nating positive infinity or negative infinity as per module 6 or module 5, I guess, okay, these are not real numbers but they just do represent a series of numbers, okay, na hindi numerically defined. Okay, hindi mo alam, basta alam mo lang nag-exist siya, yun nga lang hindi mo alam yung numerical value niya. Okay, at least in that way nade-determine natin yung behavior ng isang function. So kapag sinabi natin the function increases or decreases without bound, okay, matik naman na sinabi ko na noon class that the limit of that function does not exist. Okay, kasi hindi mo nga ma-determine kung ano mismo yung limit niya. Okay, so the function becomes limitless or boundless kapag sinabi natin it is increasing or decreasing without bound. Okay, so kapag infinite limits, yung mismong function ang nagfe-fail. Pero dito sa limits at infinity, hindi ganon yung kaso. Okay, dito sa limits at infinity, we are to find out, okay, the limit of a function as x, okay, approaches positive infinity or negative infinity. Okay, so yun yung kaibahan nilang dalawa. Kung doon sa infinite limits class, yung function ang nag-i-increase or nagdi-decrease without bound, dito naman sasadyain natin na yung x na mismo ang mag-i-increase or ang magdi-decrease without bound. Okay, so ito yung kaibahan nilang dalawa. Sa infinite limits, you are approaching a real number. Dito sa limits at infinity, you are no longer approaching a real number. Okay, but you are just approaching the positive infinity or the negative infinity or series of real numbers, okay, represented by the infinity sign. Kaya meron tayong dalawang mahalagang notation for our study of limits at infinity. Yung una class, it is that x approaches positive infinity or that x increases without bound. Yung pangalawa naman class, it is that x approaches negative infinity or that x decreases without bound. Okay? So, in-explain ko naman na sa inyo class that kapag sinabi natin positive infinity, okay, ang ibig sabihin lang nun, okay, those are numbers which are very large, okay, in value. Okay, so pwedeng itong positive infinity, it may take 10 million, okay, the value of 10 million, pwede rin namang 100 million, okay, bahala ka, basta malalaking numbers ang nire-represent ng positive infinity, okay, those numbers which are very large in nature, okay. Ang negative infinity naman ay numbers na maliliit, okay, actually class, okay, they are large in number, okay, or they are numerically large. Kasi itong negative infinity, pwede nating ilagay na 10 million. Okay? But since you are approaching negative infinity, then this must be negative. Okay? 10 million is very large, okay, in value. However, class, kahit gaano pa yan kalaki, kung nagdagdag ka kasi ng negative sign, yung number na yon nagiging maliit na. Tama? Kaya nga kapag sinabi natin na negative infinity, okay, those are numbers which are large in value, but by adding the negative sign, okay, that number becomes small, okay, or nagiging maliit siya, lesser than 0 pa nga. Okay, so kapag positive infinity, you are approaching large numbers. Kapag negative infinity naman, you are approaching small numbers. Okay, small numbers dahil naging maliit lang siya dahil doon sa negative sign. But in terms of the number or the value, okay, malaki or mahaba. Katulad lang din ng positive infinity. Okay? So, yun lang naman yung kaibahan ng positive infinity tsaka negative infinity. At least alam natin yung mga values na pwede nilang i-take, okay, sa pag-aaral natin for limits at infinity. Okay? So, bakit nga ba natin tinawag na end behavior of functions ang pag-aaral for limits at infinity? Okay? Kapag sinabi mong end behavior, okay, di malamang behavior yun ng end. Tama ba? Okay. So, since dito, ang concern natin for limits at infinity is that our values of x will approach either positive or negative infinity, or that x will increase or decrease without bound. Okay? Ang behavior na makikita natin dito or ang behavior na concern natin dito ay yung ends nung function. Okay, bakit? 'Di ba kapag sinabi nating positive infinity class, ang ibig sabihin nun, mag-start ka kay 0, okay, mula dito kay 0. Okay? And then you will approach positive infinity. Tama? Okay. Kapag sinabi naman nating negative infinity, that's from 0, okay, and then go to the left. Okay, punta ka ng negative infinity. Okay. Since ang titignan natin ay yung behavior ng function as x approaches positive infinity and as x approaches negative infinity, ang concern lang natin doon sa function ay yung behavior nung ends niya. Okay? Kasi nga, we are approaching the positive or the negative infinity. Okay? So, kapag sinabi natin x approaches positive infinity, ang ibig sabihin nun, ang inaaral mo na behavior ay yung nandito. Okay? Kapag sa kabila naman, negative infinity, ang ibig sabihin lang nun, ang inaaral mo na behavior ay yung nandito sa dulo na yan. Okay? So, kapag sinabi natin limits at infinity, since x increases or decreases without bound, then yung behavior ng function at its ends ang magiging basehan natin. Okay? Dahil nga, nagpro-progress ka doon sa function. That is because x, okay, is increasing or decreasing without bound. Kaya siya tinawag na end behavior of functions. Okay? Usually class, sabi ng mga students ko, ito daw yung pinakamahirap sa lahat ng pag-aaral ng limits. But actually, this is the easiest. Okay? Dahil pinadali lang siya due to the end behavior of a function. Okay? So, makikita nyo rin naman na madali lang din tong aralin. Okay? Unlike doon sa indeterminate form na kung saan, kung hindi mo alam i-simplify yung expression, wala nang mangyayari doon sa solution. Okay? Dito, more on cancelling, more on logic, and konti nga lang yung magiging mathematical solution nito. Okay? Dahil gagamitan din naman natin siya ng calculator. Okay? So, yun lang yung intro natin for limits at infinity. So, we'll start our discussion. Okay, so we are going to use the function 1 over x and describe its behavior as x is increasing or decreasing without bound. Okay, so 1 over x is a reciprocal function at ang isang reciprocal function ay meron siyang graph na hyperbola. Okay, so yan yung graph niya. Ako na mismo yung nag-drawing class. Okay, so titignan natin or i-assess natin yung magiging behavior ng 1 over x as x is increasing or decreasing without bound. Okay, ano ang range ng 1 over x? Okay, dahil magagaling na kayo mag-determine ng range. Okay, the range of 1 over x will be the set of all real numbers except 0. Okay, dahil yung 1 over x, maski anong palit mo doon sa value ni x, lalapit lang siya sa value ng 0 if you take large values of x, but it will never be equal to 0. Tama? Okay. So, the range of the function will be from negative infinity to 0, union 0 to positive infinity. So, parenthesis yung ginamit ko kay 0 dahil nga yung function 1 over x natin ay hindi magiging equal to 0. But, it will come as close to 0. Okay? So, the graph of the function is given, okay, at dahil limits at infinity itong pinag-aaralan natin, then sasadyain natin na i-increase or decrease, i-decrease without bound yung value ng x, okay. So, unahin muna natin yung x approaches positive infinity or that x is increasing without bound, okay. So, if x is increasing without bound, then you must be going right. Okay? So, that is x approaching positive infinity. Okay. Ngayon, kung papansinin mo yung graph, dahil sinabi natin that in studying limits at infinity, we are just concerned to the end behavior of the function. Okay? Then, just look at this end. Okay? So, dito muna tayo. Okay. Kung papansinin natin yung graph nung 1 over x class. Okay? Habang pumupunta kang positive infinity, nagde-decrease yung value ng f of x. Tama ba? That is very evident, class. Kasi kapag sinabi nating positive infinity, pwede nating kunin yung value ng 10,000 as its numerical value. Okay? Ano ang value ng f of x natin kapag, okay, ang value ng x ay 10,000? Okay? So, ako na magka-calculate. The value of our function is 1 times 10 raised to negative 4 or 0.0001. Okay? That is not equal to 0 but that is very close to 0. Tama? Ngayon, kung mas ilapit pa natin siya, x is equal to 100,000. Okay? The value of f of x will become, okay, 0.00001. Okay, that is even nearer to 0. But, hindi pa rin siya equal to 0. Tama ba? Ngayon, habang magta-try ka pa ng malalaking values for x, since you are approaching positive infinity, mas lumalapit yan kay 0. Okay? Since, plus, okay, limit is just the study of the behavior of the function and we are not interested to the value of that function, okay, and the function approaches 0 or is approaching 0 as x is increasing without bound, then we can say that the limit of 1 over x as x approaches positive infinity is equal to 0. Okay, so kita nyo na, class, okay, algebraically, okay, 1 over x can never be equal to 0. But due to calculus, 1 over x can be equal to 0. Okay? That is if we study limits. Okay? Dahil ang limits naman ay yung behavior lang ng function at hindi yung mismong value ng function at a particular number. Okay? Kung dadako naman tayo doon sa kabilang side, okay, that is if x is approaching negative infinity, okay, di ang ibig sabihin nun, kakaliwa ka ng values. Okay, so mag-start ka from 0 and then go left, okay, you are approaching negative infinity. So same lang doon sa ginawa natin, okay. Titingnan naman natin ngayon yung magiging behavior ng function habang nagde-decrease ka without bound. Okay, so still the range is from negative infinity to 0, then union 0 to positive infinity. Okay? Hindi magiging 0 yung value ng 1 over x class, maski ang ipalit mo pa na value ay negative infinity or mag-take ka ng or mag-assign ka ng values that could represent negative infinity. Okay? For example, if we take value for negative infinity as negative 10,000, then I am sure that the value, that the value of f of x, okay, is equal to negative 0.0001. Okay, negative 0.0001 is very close to 0. Tama ba? But it is not equal to 0. So, kung kukuha pa tayo ng ibang values, say negative 100,000, okay, the value of our function will become negative 0.00001. Okay, so mas lumalapit ka na naman kay 0, okay, habang nagde-decrease ka without bound, okay, or that as you approach the negative infinity, lumalapit yung value ng f of x natin kay 0. Okay, so in a similar manner, we can say that the limit, okay, of 1 over x as x is decreasing without bound, or that as x is approaching negative infinity, this must be negative, okay, negative infinity is equal to 0. Okay, so again, no, we cannot accept in algebra that the value of 1 over x can be 0. Okay, but in calculus, that is possible. Since yung study ng limits nga, class, ay more on the behavior and not on the value of that function at a certain number. Okay? So, kung mapapasin nyo, mababasa nyo yan sa module that for the function 1 over x as x is either increasing or decreasing without bound, its limit is 0, or that the behavior of the function is nearing or approaching 0 as x is either increasing or decreasing without bound. So, itong dalawang to, yung gagamitin natin na, throughout our study. Okay, so, tatandaan that the limit of 1 over x as x is approaching positive infinity or negative infinity will always be equal to 0. So, powerful yung notation na yan. Actually, class, that is one of the 3 special limit notations, okay, for the study of limits. Kung natatandaan nyo, yung dalawa pa is yung sin x over x, tsaka yung 1 minus cosine x over x, na nade-derive lang using squeeze theorem. Okay? Pero saka na natin pag-aralan yon. Okay? Ang importante, nalaman na natin yung una. That is the limit of 1 over x as x approaches either the positive or negative infinity. Okay? That is always equal to 0. At napatunayan naman natin yon by assigning values for x and getting the values for f of x. At kahit hindi naman ganun yung gawin nyo, sabi ko nga class, kapag limits at infinity, tignan mo na lang yung end behavior niya. Basta alam mo yung graph. At makikita mo naman sa graph that 1 over x is approaching 0, okay, as x is either increasing or decreasing without bound. At ito yon, okay, ito. Lalapit yan sa 0, lalapit din to sa 0. At kahit hindi naman sila mag-equal to 0, alam mo na yung behavior niya ay lumalapit sa 0. Okay?